Welcome to TV Africa News. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Luima. But first, the headlines. Vote count underway in Burkina Faso. Uganda's Bugoma forest must not be destroyed for private gain. Ethiopian army tells civilians to flee imminent raid on Mekele. Now the news in detail. The police and army operatives have raided a hotel in Chegegwa town and arrested several leaders of the opposition National Unity Platform NUP ahead of campaigns by the leaders of the party in Chenjojo district. Those arrested were members of his presidential campaign advance team. They were dragged out of their hotel rooms yesterday. According to NUP leaders, the raid of Amak Suit hotels, where the NUP politicians were booked, was led by the officer in charge of Chegegwa police station. It is true this happened last night and we are trying to find out where they could have been taken. We don't know why they were arrested, Mr. Benjamin Katana, one of the NUP leaders, said in a telephone interview with TV Africa. Now moving on, according to Uganda's National Forest Authority, remote sensing surveys shows 190 hectares of the forest have already been degraded, despite an injunction issued by the Uganda cabinet stopping and clearing of woodland until the boundaries have been demarcated. Bugoma Forest Reserve is a tropical national forest that is rich in biodiversity, including endangered chimpanzees. It is also a water catchment for Lake Albert and a migratory corridor for wildlife. It was gazetted as a forest reserve in 1932 and placed under the management of NFA. The forest covers a total of 41,144 hectares. The spectre of encroachment was unleashed in August 2016 when the Ministry of Lands issued a title for 5,770 hectares, about 22 square miles of Bugoma Forest to Bunyoro Chitara Tribal Kingdom without following the legal process of degazettement. Now moving on to Burkina Faso, vote count has started in Burkina Faso after Sunday's presidential and legislative elections held against the background of a tense security situation. President Roch Christian Kabore is projected to get re-elected, but the opposition, which includes 12 other presidential candidates, are hopeful, and indeed so for many reasons. Insecurity caused by frequent jihadist attacks and operations in the Sahel region spread into Burkina Faso and defined the first term of President Roch Kabore, who is now seeking another 5 years in power. On Sunday, much of the nation voted under the looming threat of jihadist violence. According to the Central Election Commission, about 7% of the electorate were unable to vote for fear of violence in the north and east of the country. On Sunday, both the opposition claimed that the election had been marred by fraud and said they plan to file a complaint on today. Now moving on to Ethiopia, the Ethiopian army warned Sunday of an imminent attack on Mekele, capital of rebellious Tigray state and seat of the local government that the federal government is seeking to dislodge, calling on civilians to flee while there is still time. The next decisive battle is to surround Mekele with tanks. Army spokesperson Dejene Segaye told government media, threatening to lay siege to the town, stronghold of the Tigray People's Liberation Front that rules the region. Now moving on to our business news today, manufacturers and private sector have asked government to stop being insensitive as it piles them with costs that only threaten the businesses but are likely to harm the economy, reacting to a proposal that Uganda National Bureau of Standards (UNBS) had partnered with the Swiss company to introduce digital tracking solutions. Mr. Gideon Badagawa, the PSFU Executive Director, warned the government that it is going to constrain production and force industrialists to take drastic measures that might harm the economy. He said, noting that government and its agencies must desist from thinking that every tax shortage will be resolved by a selected group of a private sector. Let's take a very short break. We will be right back.
Africa is the origin of humanity.
1776 in Germany, European leading scientists sat together. At the time they knew that humanity started in Africa at the foothills of the mountains of the moon.
Africa is the origin of high technical civilization.
We are noble Europeans. We cannot colonize Africa, which created a civilization like that of ancient Egypt or ancient Ethiopia. No! So what do we need to do? We need to demonize the African, to say that he has no soul and he actually never created a civilization, but we have a problem.
Because of white domination, everything has been changed, leading to black inferiority and self-hate. To reclaim what was ours and get back on top, join Dr. Chiurankuba in the restoration series Wahene Mesu, showing on TV Africa Channel 45 every day at 9 p.m. Did you know that AIDS has a cure?
If you have a good immune system, then your body can naturally get rid of HIV. If you take
Yes.
a poor African who's been infected and you build up their immune system, is it possible for them to also naturally get rid of it?
I would think so. It's important knowledge which is completely neglected. People always think of drugs and vaccine.
You can find these and many more interesting secrets exclusively on Channel 45. TV Africa, the right to know.
The coronavirus vaccine developed by the University of Oxford stops 70% of people developing COVID symptoms. A large-scale trial shows it is both a triumph and a disappointment after vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna showed 95% protection. However, the Oxford jab is far cheaper and easier to store and get to every corner of the world than the other two. So, it will still play a significant role in tackling the pandemic if it is approved by the regulators. There are also intriguing data that suggests perfecting the dose could increase protection by up to 90%. In our sports news today, it's been a difficult week also for Uganda Cranes defender Nicholas Wadada. The national team labored to victory and then suffered defeat to South Sudan in the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. The right back was involved in both games but never really hit the heights he has for his club side, Tanzania's Azam. He will return to his club this weekend, a happier man after being crowned the Football 256 Footballer of the Year. Wadada gathered 86,958 votes, beating left back Mustafa Kiza. The latter got 79,591 votes for the second place. Now, before we end our bulletin, let's take a recap of our top stories. Vote count underway in Burkina Faso. Uganda's Bugoma forest must not be destroyed for private gain. Ethiopian army tells civilians to flee imminent raid on Mekele. That was the news on TV Africa. Thank you for watching. More is still on the way.